get this set up. Perfect. All right. So good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. We're talking about going from ActivInspire to the new ClassFlow Desktop. My name is Ed O'Donnell. I am a ClassFlow consultant. With me today, I have my colleague Jacob Preston. He is also a ClassFlow consultant, and he will be manning the chat and Q&A. So if you have any questions as we move along through the webinar, please feel free to type your questions into the chat or Q&A option on the WebEx, and Jacob will work on getting some answers for you. I'm also going to pause during the webinar to kind of review any of the questions, and if we want to go and take another look at something that we had covered, we are certainly willing to do that as well. All right, so this webinar is to show you the new ClassFlow Desktop and how it can be used in an offline state, and how you can take your ActivInspire Flipcharts and convert them into ClassFlow lessons. So you're getting a nice look at the new ClassFlow Desktop software and how we can work in that offline state. I'm not going to touch a lot on the connected state of ClassFlow Desktop. We do offer some other webinars that will give you information on connecting your ClassFlow account and getting online. We're going to focus today mostly on working offline and being able to navigate the builder portion of ClassFlow Desktop and being able to create some lessons and activities offline, okay? If any of you are current ClassFlow users, you may know that you can convert your flipcharts into ClassFlow lessons using the Convert button within My Resources. However, there was no way to do that with the old version of ClassFlow Desktop, but the good news is now we can. To get started, I'm just going to go through and show you the new ClassFlow Desktop. To launch ClassFlow Desktop, I'll click on my ClassFlow Desktop icon, and the thing that you're going to see pop up is this little wheel on my screen. If you've used ClassFlow Desktop in the past, you will notice that we have a completely new look for ClassFlow Desktop. You may be wondering, you know, where is it? I know I mentioned this little wheel on my screen. Previously, ClassFlow Desktop had that bar that would run along the side of your desktop screen here, but now we have this really convenient little wheel that we can move and place wherever we want on our desktop, okay? This wheel is also expandable. So if I click on these three lines here, we call it the hamburger. If we click on the hamburger, it will expand and show me the icons that I have available in ClassFlow Desktop. The four along the bottom that you're seeing that are kind of grayed out, these are the connected icons in ClassFlow Desktop. So if I wanted to work online, these would become illuminated and available for me to use. But like I mentioned, we're working purely offline today, so we're going to be working with these icons along the top. All right? So before I go ahead and show you how to convert one of your lessons, which is where we are going to start, I just want to take a quick look at the flip chart that we are going to be converting today. So go ahead and open ActivInspire. It's a pretty standard flip chart. This one's on the United States and World War II. As I look through all of my pages, you see I've got some very familiar kind of content in here, text, some charts. We've got pictures and maps. So pretty standard flip chart, chock full of content. I also have some annotations on this page, you know, things that teachers would use and typically see in the classroom. Also want to point out that we do have some page notes on this flip chart as well. Those will convert in ClassFlow Desktop too, and I'll show you that as we go ahead and convert. So just give you a quick look at the flip chart just so that you can see how well these are going to convert when we bring them over to ClassFlow Desktop. Okay, so I'm going to come back over to my desktop here, and I'm going to come back to my wheel. I'll click on the hamburger, and the little folder icon here is going to be our browse. When I launch that, you'll see I have a pop-up here within ClassFlow Desktop, and this will take me into the section on creating new. So I can create a new ClassFlow lesson or a ClassFlow activity. Nice part about working offline is that I actually have the ability to save these as files on my computer. So if you take a look at my desktop here, these are ClassFlow lessons and ClassFlow activities. So those word search, crossword puzzles, those we can create offline as well, and I can save them as files on my computer. Your ClassFlow lessons will save as a .cfl file, and your activities will be saved as a .cfa file. I also have the option of browsing my computer, and finally on the bottom you'll see it says convert file to lesson. So when we talk about converting our flip charts, we're going to use this button on the bottom here. When I click it, I have a nice dialog box here that pops up, and I can just look through my computer and find the flip chart that I want to convert. I have the flip chart saved on my desktop, so I'm going to click open. And as ClassFlow Desktop kind of works its magic here, I realize we are talking about ActivInspire Flipcharts here today. However, you do also have the option of converting your smart notebooks and also Adobe PDF files as well. Those will convert directly into ClassFlow lessons. All right, perfect. As you can see, our flip chart is now a ClassFlow lesson. And we're going to check it out here in the Lesson Builder portion of ClassFlow Desktop. What you will see here is a nice continuity between ClassFlow Desktop and the newer release of ClassFlow. This Lesson Builder portion is going to look very familiar, so we have a lot of consistency between the two. And what I want to point out here is that even after we convert our flip charts into lessons, we do have the option of going in and tweaking our lessons and editing them as we wish. Just going to take a quick look through the lesson here just so you can see how everything came over and converted. Everything looks great. Maybe just have to adjust the text box here to make it fit perfectly. But all of our content is there, and everything that was available in that flip chart is now available to me as a ClassFlow lesson. Okay? So first point here, I mentioned page notes when we were in ActivInspire. One of the great things about converting your flip charts is that all of those page notes will then come over into a ClassFlow lesson as well, and they will appear along the bottom. It has a very kind of similar look and feel as PowerPoint. So if you are a PowerPoint user, you'll notice that this has a very familiar kind of look to it. If I click on the bar, I can drag these page notes up and down. So if I use them to teach with, I can, have access to that as well. Clicking the little arrow will get rid of the page notes, and I can expand those back if I want to look at them again. So ActivInspire users, in the past, I've done a lot of training on ActivInspire. I used it in my classroom when I was a teacher, and I used to use all these page notes to, either put reminders on there of things that I wanted to do in my classroom the next time I did this lesson, or any instructions for using this in the classroom. So you do have the ability to put page notes with all of your lessons as well. Okay, so let's say that we wanted to add an additional page to my lesson. As I kind of scroll down here, I'm going to get this recording thing out of the way. I can click on the Add button at the bottom. When I do that, you see I have options to add a card or to add a section. So I'll go ahead and add a blank card here. And from here, I can do anything that I would like to within my lesson. So what I'm going to do is kind of take you through all of the tools available at the top, just to kind of give you a sense of what you're going to be able to do within this lesson builder in ClassFlow Desktop. First one that we have here is our familiar insert button. If I choose this, I can add any resources that I have from my hard drive. So if I wanted to add a picture, for instance, I could certainly do that. And it will kind of add it to my card, and I can resize it and do whatever I would like within my page. I also have some additional tools here that we'll talk about. Just going to add a card. Next along the list here is the Shapes tool. Now, we've made some really great improvements to Shapes. As I hope you all know, we really value your feedback as a teacher and educator. And some of the updates that we have for ClassFlow and ClassFlow Desktop have directly come from teacher feedback. So one of the things that you'll see now with Shapes is when I select a shape, it will automatically pop out onto my card. So that is something that has been suggested to us, and we've really taken that into account. The shape will come out, and then I can go ahead and edit and change it from there. So there's another triangle, for example. We'll put a speech bubble out here just so you can kind of get a look at these shapes as we're sending them out onto our card. All right. So some additional options when working with shapes. Right underneath, I have the option to change the fill color of my shape. One thing you'll see with this update to ClassFlow Desktop is we have an expanded color palette. So you have more colors to choose from here. I'll go ahead and make this blue. Right next to that, we have the option of changing our border color with all of the same options in the color palette as we saw before. I can also change the opacity of the border color or the fill color if you wanted to kind of fade out the color on your shape. We also have the option to change the width of our borders if we wanted to do that. We also have border styles now as an option if I wanted to kind of change the look of the border itself. And finally, we have the opacity of the entire shape. So if I wanted to, I can just change the opacity on the fill or of the total object here. Couple additional features with shapes. If I select the cog, what that will do is give me some options. You'll notice that we have anchoring options now. So familiar with their ActivInspire, you had the ability to kind of lock your objects. We call that anchoring in ClassFlow. But you do have the option of anchoring all of the objects on your page, or you can anchor the movement, resize, and rotation of this. So let's say I was using this in a lesson and I wanted to just be able to lock the resize option. In choosing this, I won't be able to make the object bigger or smaller, but I can still move it around on my screen. Down at the bottom, we have a couple of options. Well, the first is edit points. I just wanted to clarify that this edit points option won't be available on all of our shapes, just some of them. But what it allows you to do is actually change the overall shape of your object on the screen here. So if I have an equilateral triangle, for instance, I can select this point and change it and make it into a right triangle if I wanted to. All right. So like I said, this isn't available for all of our shapes, just some of them. Okay. If you notice when I click on the speech bubble, that option isn't available to me at the bottom. The last little setting that we have in here is the edit rotation pivot. So this one's a little bit different, but the one thing that I want you to notice here is if I click on this green icon, what I can do is rotate my shape, right? And currently it's rotating right around the center of the object. So if I click this edit rotation pivot option, I can change where I want that shape to move around. All right, so if I place this at the bottom of my speech bubble and then choose to rotate it, it's going to rotate along that new point that I set. The cool part about this is that I can place this rotation pivot point anywhere I want on my lesson, so that when I select this object, it will now rotate around that point. Okay, next up on the toolbar here, we have our text option. Some update to text. Here we have, it's a really smooth kind of process for adding text to your card in the lesson. We have updated fonts on here, and the real nice update is the text size. So if I were to enter some text here, right, we are learning ClassFlow Desktop. The really nice update with this is that if I want to add a new text box, the text size will remain the same. So previously it would come up as a standard size, and now with this update, all of my text, if I set it to a certain size font, it will remain the same each additional time that I add a new text box. All right, so for right now, I'm going to take a quick break, and I'm going to ask Jacob if we have any questions thus far on everything that I've covered.
Hey, Ed, we have a couple questions in the chat. Let me read one real quick to you. Marcel is asking about being able to move handwriting with the new CFD.
All right, great question. I'll illustrate that for you when we get to the pen. If I annotate on my desktop here, you'll see that I can't select these annotations. So the annotations will remain right on my card wherever I place them. And I'm going to touch a little bit more on the pen here and some different things that you can do with that.
All right, that's the only one we have so far. I've answered a couple other ones in the chat, so feel free to pop anything in here if you have any questions.
Thanks, Jacob. Okay, so like I said, we're going to move on to the pen and annotations point here and just show you a couple of the newer features and what we can do with annotations. So right next to our text tool, we do have the pen. The drop-down arrow will allow you to choose between pen and highlighter. So if I select my pen, I do have the option of changing my pen color. And again, we have the expanded color palette, so you have some more colors to work with. Change the pen width if I wanted to, make my annotations a little bit thicker on the screen. And the last portion here, which is kind of the coolest part, is our drawing style. So ActivInspire users, this one's going to seem really familiar to you as well. It is preset to drawing freehand, which is kind of what I just showed you with annotating on this card. But we can also change it to draw horizontal or vertical lines, which makes it really nice and easy to draw charts or anything on your page. So if I select my horizontal drawing style, when I draw a line on my page, it is only going to travel horizontally. If I move my cursor up and down, you see it's not straying off the path at all. It's going to come out nice and neat and straight when I use that. Same goes for the vertical line. So if I draw a nice vertical line here, if I move side to side, we're getting nice, neat lines. So this will allow you to draw some really organized T-charts, for example. Also works really, really well with the highlighter option. So if I change to highlighter and I select horizontal, let's make this a different color, make it a little bit thicker here. If you wanted to go ahead and highlight text on your screen, I can do that nice and neat. So if there's any, text on your screen or anything that your students are reading in class and you wanted to highlight for them, you can do that nice and neatly so that you're not straying off the lines on your card. All right, so some cool updates with that. We also have the eraser available. You can change the width of the eraser as well as the drawing style on that as well, or excuse me. So this will allow you to erase nice and easily as well. All right. Important thing to kind of point out again that our eraser will only erase those annotations, so no need to worry about going in and erasing any text or objects that you have on your page as well. Next one I want to touch on, and this is something you've seen me do a couple of times here, is the clear tool. We do have the option of how we want to clear things on our page. So you can just select clear annotations if you wanted to, and that will get rid of anything you've done with a pen or highlighter. You can clear your shapes, your text, or clear the entire page if you wanted to as well. You'll see next to the clear tool, we have the familiar paint bucket. That is our fill tool. So if you have used ActivInspire before, this one's going to be nice and familiar as well. I can go on here and change the fill color of my page. I can, change the color and say I want this speech bubble to be a different color if I wanted to. So you do have some options on filling in your space very easily with some color. All right. Okay, so some other extra tools that we have here. You have a camera option as well. This will allow you to place images on your cards very easily. So if I'm going to just switch to a new page here, I'll add a card. And selecting the camera tool will pull up this capture image icon, so I can take a very unflattering picture of myself if I wanted to. I also have the option of uploading an image from my computer. So here's a map, we'll put that one on here. Right, so any of those images that I have on my computer, I can easily access with this camera tool. In doing that, we can make it nice and easy and simple to add pictures to our cards in our ClassFlow lesson. Last piece here on the toolbar, we have the option of using tools on our ClassFlow lessons as well. So you see when I expand this tool option, I've got my protractor, ruler, compass, all these kind of familiar tools that we can use within our lesson. Also, we have the revealer and the spotlight option available in your lessons as well. I'm going to flip back to this page real quick. So if I wanted to use the spotlight, for example, I can click spotlight, and it will send that tool right out onto my card. You can expand the spotlight tool, move it around if I wanted to draw attention to certain parts of this image, or let's say I was using that map that I added, I can focus on just specific parts of the content that's on my lesson card. Another question we get about ClassFlow Desktop is, do I have the ability to use actions like I may have used in the past with ActivInspire? And the answer is absolutely yes. We have a lot of different actions put into this that we can use within our lessons. To access the actions, what we will do is use that cog option like we touched on before. When I select the cog, right in the kind of center here, we have actions as an option. So I'll select actions, and it will pull open the add and edit icons or actions option. I'll select the drop down to choose the action that I want. You see I have show and hide, I have reorder, containers are an option here as well. Go to card, and I'm just going to choose the clone on drag option here. When I do that, I'll select the object from my card that I want to be able to clone when I click on that object in my lesson. When I'm finished, I'll click Save. And I'm going to draw your attention to this little action icon that we have on my object now. So this little blue icon here will indicate to me that I now have an action associated with the object that is on my card. I also want to point out that I am in Lesson Builder right now, so if I wanted to test it out, it's not going to let me do that. You will see the clone on drag option enabled when I click play when I'm presenting my ClassFlow lesson. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click play just to kind of give you a sense of what this lesson looks like now. I have all the pages from my flip chart available to me here. It's all came over nice and neat. Here's the image that I added or I inserted onto my lesson. Here's that shapes and color page that I was working with. And I do have the option now of doing the clone on drag when I'm actually presenting my lesson in my class. All right. I'm being a little sluggish on my computer now, but you see that under here we do have the shape that has been cloned. Here we go. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and exit, head back to the builder. And just before we move on, I wanted to touch on the save options that we have available here. Up in the top right, we have an option that says Save. After I'm kind of done creating my ClassFlow lesson here, I can click Save, and it will save a copy of this lesson. You'll see that it kind of saved automatically, though. So what is happening here is it is saving my ClassFlow lesson in the same location that I got my flip chart from. So when I went ahead and converted this lesson, I pulled it right from my desktop. So what we've done is it's made a copy, a .cfl file for this lesson and saved it also on my desktop. If I had pulled my flip chart from a specific folder, that's where it would save to. However, you do have the option of changing the location of where this file will be stored. If instead of clicking Save, I click Exit, it will pull up a dialog box for me, and I have a few options here. I can exit this lesson without saving it at all. I can click Save, and it will do the same thing as it would as I click Save up in the top right. Or I now have the option of the, the Save As option. And when I choose that, it will ask me to pick a new location for where I wanted to save this lesson to. All right, so you do have the option of changing the location of where you wanted to save that file. All right. Oh, just one more thing I forgot to touch on here was my ClassFlow Activities. Just want to go back and mention, I know I stated at the beginning that we do have the option of creating activities in ClassFlow Desktop as well. So let's say I went ahead and instead of creating a new lesson, I created a new ClassFlow activity. I would save that on my computer, and I can insert that onto my lesson as well. So I'm going to use that Insert button again. Come over to my desktop, and here's a word search that I created. I'll select it, click Open, and it will put that activity out onto my card. One little point that I wanted to make with this is the activities in ClassFlow are a little bit selfish. They want a whole page to themselves, so we won't be able to put any other content on the card besides the activity itself. So here's the word search. I'm going to go ahead and click play again just to show you what that is going to look like. So when we play our lesson, here is that word search activity that I placed onto my card. I'll click play, and you see we have a nice little activity that we can do with our students when we present our lessons. All right, Jacob, any questions from anybody on everything that we've covered so far?
No real questions, Ed. I've answered most of them in the chat, I believe. If you have any other ones, just feel free to put them in the chat, or if I've missed yours, I've gotten quite a few in here that I've tried to answer, so feel free to put them in here.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and exit this right now to show you one of the other really cool features within ClassFlow Desktop. So I mentioned that I've done a lot of training on ActivInspire and also used ActivInspire in my classroom. One of my favorite features and a favorite feature of teachers out there is the desktop annotate option that we had within ActivInspire. We do have that option available as well in ClassFlow Desktop. So I'm going to come back to my wheel here, click on the hamburger, and next to our browse icon, we have the option for desktop annotate as well. It is going to work just a little bit differently. It's going to make your life a lot easier. When I click on the desktop annotate, what it's going to do is take a screenshot of the content that is being displayed on my computer. And what it's going to allow me to do then is to actually go ahead and annotate right on top of anything that I have on my screen. I mentioned it's a little bit different, and here's why. In the desktop annotate portion of ActivInspire, one thing that you may have noticed is that if I annotated over something, whether with the pen or the highlighter, when I scrolled down or I navigated away from that page, those annotations would stay right on top of my screen. So if I was using the highlighter, it can be a little bit tricky sometimes highlighting text on my desktop. With this screenshot setup, it allows us to go ahead and save all these annotations in the spot that I want them to be in. So I won't have to go back and screenshot anything if I wanted to save those annotations. Really nice part about this is that after I've kind of saved my annotations, I can toggle my carousel. And if I click on this, you'll notice that I have this page right here. These are my desktop annotations. All right. I can then go ahead and add a new card if I wanted some blank white space on here. I can add some shapes out there. I can do anything within the tools that I've just showed you, and I can go ahead and flip back to those desktop annotations that I made previously. You do have the option of then going back and deleting any of these cards. Basically what it's doing is putting together a new instant whiteboard lesson for me. So from here, if I annotate on this card, I can go ahead and save this on here as well. So just to review here, I have my annotations, add a blank card. I can come and annotate up here if I wanted to. So you can really, nice flip back and forth. So let's say I'm doing some content online. I can highlight, flip over to my blank page, and scribble some notes on a blank card if I wanted to. Okay. Again, if I wanted to exit this, I can, save that as a lesson, exit the whiteboard as well. Another really cool feature in here is the text recognition option. So just as an example here, I'm going to delete this. If I choose to use the pen, I can write, hi on here if I wanted to. Select the text recognition selector, and any annotations that I put on this screen can be converted directly into actual text. So if you are, writing some notes up on the board or anything like that, you can select those and convert them directly into text to to be used within your lesson as well. All right. So some really nice features and updates with our desktop annotate feature. Now to exit this, you have the option of either exiting your lesson, or if I select the wheel again and click on my desktop annotate, it will take me directly back to my desktop, and I can, you know, navigate away if I wanted to. Select it again, and it'll make a screenshot, so I can just move, you know, really easily and smoothly between my desktop and being able to actually annotate on top of anything that's on my screen here. All right, so that's kind of desktop annotate in a nutshell there. Jacob, do we have any questions about the desktop annotate features?
We did have one question, but I think you answered it. But if you could just go ahead and demonstrate it again, that way the group can see. Some person was asking, do I have to close and restart the desktop annotation when I change a page, like a PDF, or do I have to open a new card?
You don't have to. I mean, it's very fluid, but it does make it nice and easy to do that. You will have to, let's say I want to work within a multi-page document. I can just flip back to my desktop, let's say scroll down a little bit, do the desktop annotate again, it'll screenshot it, and that way I can kind of move nice and easy. It is set up like that. I know it's kind of an extra step of, you know, going back out of desktop annotate and take another screenshot, but the real big important part in that is the ability to save your annotations. If I was doing this in ActivInspire, I would have to scroll down my page, erase my annotations, and go ahead and re-annotate on top of my my options that were available. All right. So even though it is an extra step, it's much easier to do it this way so that we can save all of those annotations that we want to save. So then from here, if I go ahead and exit, I can save this file completely as a lesson and come back to it later. All right. So any other questions that we have on our desktop annotate here?
Looks good over here, Ed.
All right, thanks, Jacob. So what I'd like to do now is go ahead and jump over to ClassFlow quickly. What I'd ask everybody to do for me as we kind of wrap up the webinar here is to go ahead and give us a little bit of feedback about the webinar itself. Like I had said before, we really appreciate your feedback, and it helps us improve ClassFlow and to improve our webinars as we move forward. So if you wouldn't mind, if you would go ahead and open up your web browser and go to demo.classflow.com/student, and you will get the login screen here. You'll choose Join Class, and then enter in this class code right here, QQ6ZH, and we will get you into my ClassFlow lesson here so we can get you a little bit more information and to collect some of your feedback. We would really appreciate it. All right, so I'll give you a minute or two here to kind of get connected. If you have any questions about getting connected or anything, please enter them in the chat, and we will help you out getting into our lesson here. All right, I see some people joining in. Thank you so much. I noticed that we had a question about not seeing anything. That's okay. You should see a nice kind of scenic, pretty picture as your card here. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next page. And if you have any questions about getting connected with the class code or anything, Jacob can help you out with that. So just a couple of reminders as I have people logging in here. If you haven't already, please go ahead and sign up for your free ClassFlow account at classflow.co.uk. So that will give you your free ClassFlow account. It'll be this one right here. And after we wrap up today's webinar, we are going to send you a follow-up email. On that email, you're going to see a recording of today's webinar. So everything that we covered in today will be available to you to rewatch. And you can also go ahead, please share that with any of your friends or colleagues that may be interested in using ClassFlow Desktop as well. You're also going to receive a playlist of some help videos that were relevant to today's session. So you'll get a nice list of ClassFlow Desktop videos to kind of help you out with converting any of your flip charts or utilizing any of the features that we talked about in today's webinar. Also, a reminder, we do these webinars pretty frequently, and we have a large kind of array of topics that we cover. So please feel free also to register for any other ClassFlow webinars to learn more about everything that we are doing with ClassFlow and ClassFlow Desktop. Last thing that I'll offer here is we really like to engage with everybody on social media. So if you would like to, please feel free to follow me on Twitter. My handle is classflow._ed. And also follow @ClassFlow on Twitter. Also feel free to like us on Facebook as well. We do a lot of Facebook Live videos and Periscope videos on Twitter. Any questions that you have, we are very active on Twitter as well. So please feel free to shoot us a follow and we can interact on social media. Okay. Last little reminder here is that help is always available on ClassFlow. You can click the green question mark for some live interactive help in chatting with some of the members of the ClassFlow team with any questions. We have help juice articles available as well, kind of like FAQs that you can read about ClassFlow and ClassFlow Desktop. Click on that little drop-down arrow and the green question mark for some short videos and informational articles as well. All right, so last portion here is our feedback session. If you would, please take a few moments to complete the form about today's webinar. As I mentioned, our feedback provides us with a lot of valuable information that'll help us make improvements with the webinar, improvements with ClassFlow and ClassFlow Desktop. And we really appreciate all of the feedback that you could give us about our section today. All right, so that kind of wraps up our webinar. You should have the link to the form on your device right now. Just wanted to say thank you again for joining us this afternoon. I hope we covered everything that you were interested in. Again, you'll have a link to the recording and some videos coming your way very shortly. Jacob and I are going to hang around here for a few minutes. If you have any additional questions, feel free to put them in the chat and we will work on getting an answer for you. All right. Thanks again for joining us and have a great evening.